first story is motor racing, but that's not the full story. It's titled Fast Lane, and the teller is Tom Blocker. Tom, come on up here and share Fast Lane. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, so I got to have a prop here, so I know where I am. Oh, there we go. Okay. So to start off, this picture was taken in 1973 in Raleigh. That's a Honda CR250. I had just gone to work for Honda Motor Company as a service training instructor in Atlanta. They had just introduced, that was their first two-stroke lightweight motocross bike. The European brands, Husqvarna, CZ, Bultaco were way ahead. Suzuki and Yamaha were way ahead. This motorcycle put Honda on the map in the motocross world. Motocross was really starting to get big in the U.S. in the early 70s. Now, I started riding motorcycles in 66. I got my first bike. I graduated from Cary High School. I wanted a bike from the time I was 16, a motorcycle, and I saved money, cutting grass and all that kind of stuff. My parents were like, you're going to wait. So they didn't think I was mature enough. They were probably right. So 2 months from graduation, I got to buy my first bike. I went to NC State. 2 years in, 1968, I started racing. And back then, oval track, dirt track racing, flat track racing was pretty popular. Quarter-mile dirt tracks were real common. And then there was another form called TT scrambles, and this was like right and left-hand turns on a graded dirt surface with a jump or two, kind of like the precursor to motocross before motocross really became big. And those were a lot of fun. And then there were some cross-country races where you'd go off into the woods and run a woods loop, And back then, if you wanted to race, you kind of had to do it all because there wasn't a lot of any of it, So if you were going to race, so I had 2 roommates in college. We shared an apartment. And I mean, we would just go nuts over racing. We were racing every weekend. Sometimes we'd race a flat track race on Saturday night because a lot of them were under the lights. And then we'd go do a cross country race, or a hare scrambles or a TT scrambles on Sunday. So we were going to it. I had an old Dodge Lancer, a $400 sled of a car. I spent all my money on the motorcycle, so I never had a decent. Now I've been in the car business for 40 years, but I never had a decent car back then. We were going to Elizabeth City one day. That's a long hike from Raleigh. Blew a tire, had to put my spare on. It was a recap. It started coming apart. So we had to stop at a little country store. The guy had one tire that would fit my car. It was a new tire, but it was kind of dry rotted, and he charged us like 3 prices. He saw us, he had us, we had to have the tire. So we pooled our resources, got the tire. We finally get to the track. By the time we paid our entry fees, we were out of money. And I said, all right, boys, one of us got to win something today or we're not going back to Raleigh, we'll be broke. So we did okay. I think I got a second and one of my buddies got a fourth. We won about $25 between us. Man, we were high cotton, we were high rollers on the way back to Raleigh because gas was 25 cents a gallon back then. So, I mean, that was a decent amount of money for some college boys, but really enjoyed all that. By the 70s, motocross was really starting to take hold. The Europeans had come over and kind of showed us how it's done. They beat us bad, for a number of years until our riders got good enough to really compete at their level. But this was a fantastic bike. It was a whole shot king, meaning, on a motocross start, when you come out of the gate with 30 bikes, that thing was almost guaranteed to get to the first turn first. It was really, really a quick bike, and I got a lot of hole shots on that. Didn't always win the race because you got to be fast for a whole 20 minutes, and sometimes I'd run out of juice, before I could get to the end, but had some success. And the wheelie is, when you took the checkered flag, to be a proper hot dog, you had to get it up on the back wheel, go across the line on the back wheel and take that flag. So that's what that was all about. So I love that picture. A friend of mine was a photographer, and he did the high contrast, made it kind of artistic with just took all the gray tones out of it, and really liked that. So had a lot of fun. I was working for Honda Motor Company. I was a service training instructor, so I trained motorcycle mechanics. Then I transitioned into the auto division, and I worked for the auto division for a number of years. But when I first started, Honda really didn't have a car until 1973. The Civic was kind of their first car. So this was in the mid 70s. So they were still a fledgling company. So it was really an exciting job, to be part of a new company like that. So I spent about 15 years with Honda, was a district service manager, district sales manager, eventually went back to Atlanta as zone manager. So I always wanted to go road racing. When I was in Atlanta, I was going up to Road Atlanta. It was a great road course. It was just right up the road. It's a legendary road course. And I watched Can-Am racing and a lot of big-time racing there. Really got excited about it, and still rode motorcycles, but I wanted to go racing. Had a chance to get a race car. That car is called a Sports 2000. That class, it's a spec class. All the cars run the same motor, 2-liter Ford engine. They all have to meet a minimum weight requirement, same size wheels and tires, so very, very competitive class. And in '87, I actually won the Atlanta Regional Championship. In '86, I tore up a lot of body work and, did all the typical rookie mistakes. But '87, I settled down, got going good, won the region. In '88, I moved into the National Series. And whoa, I got a major, major education there. The guys that were running Nationals all had big transporters. They had spare engines in the back and body work and new tires every time they went out. And it was a real struggle. So I never won a National. I got some fourths, and that was actually a pretty good job because the cars were just so superior. These guys were spending $200,000, $250,000 to race against chumps like me that were spending $15,000 a year to race. And I'd do 5 races a year. These guys were doing 20, So they got better. I mean, they got faster. Their cars were just superior. But they all turned out to be great. I made good friends with a lot of these folks. One of them would he'd had his pilots fly his Learjet in, and his crew would have his car all ready. Another one would drive his vintage Ferraris to the track and hop out, put his suit on, get in his car. The team would have it ready to go. And one day he's standing there watching me. I'm working on my car. He was a Swiss guy. And he says, "Tom, where are your mechanics?" And I said, "Well, you're looking at them, it's me and my girlfriend Claire, who's now my wife, and he's like, well, I don't understand. How do you do it?" I said, "Well, we just kind of figure things out and we do the best we can." He said, "I will send my men over when they get through with my car and they can help you." I said, "Well, I'd appreciate that, But made a lot of good friends. We had great camaraderie, and there really was a lot of interplay between the teams, and other teams would help you out if you got in a bind, just like you'd help them out if you could. So a great experience racing that Sports 2000. Did that for 4 years. At the end of '89, I got to know Rick Hendrick pretty well, running the Southeast Zone. He had a couple of dealerships in my zone, and he started kind of pinging on me, and Honda wanted me to go to California and run the LA zone. And, the difference in cost of living between Atlanta and LA is staggering. And my kids and my ex were in Raleigh. I didn't want to be 3,000 miles from the kids. So I came to work with Hendrick in '89. Hendrick Automotive Group had about 20 dealerships at that time. And boy, there was a lot to do because he had acquired a lot of those stores just recently, and there was a lot of work to be done. So it was I spent 25 years with the company. When I retired, we had 87 dealerships, 10,000 employees. I mean, we were $7 billion in annual revenue. It was a big company. They're bigger than that now. I think they've got almost 100 stores now. So, but it was a great 25 years, but it was a sprint. I mean, I was going wide open the whole time. So when I moved to Charlotte, my son was up in Raleigh. I had gotten him a bike a couple years before that when he was 10 years old. He started riding a little XR 100. In this picture, this was probably 91 or 92. He was 13 or so there. I had him on a 200. I kept upgrading his bike as he got better, So I'm mentoring him and training him. And by about that time, he got quick enough that I could go riding with some of my buddies and he could about keep up, So it was really, really fun. So he was chasing the faster guys all the time, and I was always encouraging him. Then the picture on the bottom is about 8 years after that. At that point, the student became the teacher. When my son was about 19, he said, "See you later, Pops." I mean, I put him on equal equipment and he was gone, and I expected that. And he just kept getting better and better, and he still rides to this day. So it was a great bonding experience for the two of us. We thoroughly enjoyed it and just had a great time. But, I went for years, I went 25 years without a road bike. I always had a dirt bike. Even when I was racing the Sports 2000, I had a dirt bike. So eventually, I was looking at these Ducatis, and I'm just a motorhead, And they're gorgeous motorcycles, and the equipment is so high end, Olin suspension, Brembo brake. I mean, just really, really nice stuff. So I said, I think I need one of those. So, yeah, so that's, I started doing track days on a Ducati kind of way late I was 54 when I did my first track day. Now, most of the guys are 25 or 30, or 35 out there putting their knee down. That's at Barber Motorsports Park. You can see the elevation change in that track. It's a high-speed roller coaster ride. It's an awesome, awesome track. Beautiful place. It's like you built a racetrack in the middle of Quail Hollow Country Club. It's a beautiful place, manicured hedges and grounds. 3-story motorcycle museum with 1,000 bikes in it. It's just a mecca of a place to go drive a car or ride a motorcycle. There's an IndyCar race there. I mean, it's a big time track. But this bike is called a Panigale. It's an 1199 Panigale. That thing made 175 horsepower at the rear wheel. The bike weighs less than 400 pounds. So the power to weight ratio, even with my 200 on it, is like three pounds per horsepower. I mean, that's my Porsche now is really fast, and it's like 7 pounds per horsepower, So the power to weight ratio of these bikes is just unbelievable. Their acceleration is blinding. I mean, they'll run off and hide from just about the fastest car there is. I mean, they're unbelievably quick. And you can see all leaned over, you've got about that much contact patch. So, I mean, you had to be very precise and very smooth in your movements, or that thing would get away from you. But I really enjoyed doing track days and riding, and I think the next slide shows a typical picture at a track day, and this is the advanced group. So there's a novice group when you start out, then you move into intermediate. They've got restricted passing zones. You can only pass on a straightaway, you pass on the brakes, but not in a corner, that type of thing. The advanced group, it's like, you're all big boys, don't hurt each other, have a nice day, So it's a lot of racer boys are in that group, and it's a fast bunch. When I first started in A, I was scared to death, because these guys were really fast, and they're passing you everywhere, But I gradually got faster and faster, and ultimately I was kind of in the top 10 or 20% of the group, and I was way older than everybody else. I mean, we'd have a nice dice on the track and come in, we'd be bumping fists, and I'd take off my helmet, and these guys would walk in and go, "Was that you on that Ducati?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Wow," I said, "Yeah, but I'm gonna have a nap before I go back out," But that's me there, and this guy, I was chasing him. He had just passed this fella, and I'm trying to get up under him myself and go ahead and make the pass because I'm after this guy. He's my next target. And you were all the time chasing somebody down, or somebody was coming up on you. So it was a very active situation, and you ran really, really close. Some of the most fun I had was when we had 3 or 4 bikes in kind of a gaggle, and we could never get away from each other, and we just go the whole session like that. And I'd come in, I'd be like, "That's the most fun I ever had. I'm so glad it's over," Because if somebody makes a mistake, big problem. But wonderful sport. I'm really glad I did it. I had a ball, and I learned a lot, and just totally enjoyed it. So, everybody asks, "So how fast you go?" Well, I didn't know. You can never look at your speedometer. At the end of the straightaway, you're looking at the brake marker, because you've got to go from top speed to a 45-mile-an-hour corner. But that's my GPS lap timer. When Bill asked me to tell my story, I asked him, does it have to all be true? He said, "Yeah." So I thought I'd be credible and I'd show you my lap timer showing 170 miles an hour on top speed, 10,900 RPM. Shows your lap time. So when you came in, you could check all your laps, and scroll your laps. But I mean, that's moving on 2 wheels. So anyway, it was a lot of fun. It was fast. But at the ripe old age of 67, I decided that, I think I've been kind of getting away with this. Maybe it's time for 4 wheels. So that's what I did. Now, in the meantime, my son, who I showed you a picture of earlier, is still riding. My grandson, I started him riding when he was 4 years old. So now we got 3 generations riding dirt bikes. This picture, he was about 12 there. My son asked him, "Ethan, when do you think you're going to be able to outrun Papa Tom?" He said, "When I'm 13. Well, he got a KTM 85 at 13, and guess what? He was right. So the student becomes the teacher once again. And that's pretty satisfying, so I really enjoyed that. Now, the little one here, he's a ball sports guy. He plays quarterback for the Pleasant Hill Middle School. He plays shooting guard on the basketball team. Good little athlete. but didn't really take to motorcycles. This one, Ethan, just won the South Carolina State Championship on mountain bikes last year. He's a heck of a mountain bike racer. He's making quite a name for himself now. So anyway, still riding motors. I've had a dirt bike pretty much, ever since I was 17 years old. So that led me to my next sport, which is track days in a car. If I can't ride the Ducatis anymore, let's get four wheels. So I bought a Porsche, started doing track days, and one of the guys here was one of my mentors. Tom Arkle he was one of the veterans out there, and he was kind of showing me the ropes when I got started. And it's a great camaraderie. When I went from the motorcycles to the cars, I thought, these Porsche guys, they might be kind of elite. It may not be the same camaraderie. It's exactly the same. It's exactly the same. The guys at the track, there's no posers. You're either fast or you're not. You can't hide from it. I mean, you either got it or you don't have it. So it's a great camaraderie. Everybody gets along well. There was a fellow with a car just like mine. This is a GT4 RS. This is my present car, and that's Road Atlanta, by the way, legendary track. But there was a fella at Carolina Motorsports Park. He had the same car. He blew a tire. He didn't have any spares. Well, I had a set of spares with a set of tires on them that I had run for a couple of days, and I gave him my wheels, and he put them on. He was able to finish the weekend. He just brought them back to me yesterday, and brought me a couple nice bottles of wine, for loaning him my wheels and tires. And that's the kind of stuff we do at the track. Everybody tries to take care of everybody else. You don't want to see anybody going home because of a car problem. But with the track days, they're called high performance driver education. And that sounds a little better to the insurance companies than a track day, right? So that's what they're called. And that's what they are, because novices come in, they get an instructor in the right seat. And it's, the Porsche Club in particular is really, really conducive to new drivers. Porsche Club does a great job at educating new drivers and helping them understand. I started instructing about 4 years ago, and I can tell you, I'm enjoying that as much as driving. I mean, it's really rewarding. It's really rewarding to take someone who's just getting started, and watch them progress. And I've probably instructed 12 or 14 people in the last couple of years, and it's just been a wonderful experience. So really enjoy it. But Road Atlanta, look at the elevation change. That from turn 3 to turn 5, it drops 130 feet, and you're plunging down through the S's. It's an exciting track, yeah. So I think I got another shot. This is at VIR. That was my GT3. I love the back view of that squatty looking Porsche there. This Corvette, I'm chasing him. This Corvette was watching me in his mirrors a little too much. He missed his turn in. So he's going wide, the track goes back right. He's going to be in a way wrong position for the next corner. So he's dead meat. I got him covered. He's gonna have to point me by. Now on automotive track days, you have to point by. The motorcycles, we didn't have mirrors. There were no point bys. You just pass. With the cars, it's much safer in that you always have to point by. So if you catch somebody, they either tell you, pass me on the left, pass me on the right. If somebody catches you, you're obligated to tell them, pass me on the left, pass me on the right. And that's the gentleman's agreement. If you don't do it, you'll get a blue flag. And if you ignore the blue flag, you get the black flag, which means you got to come in and talk to the steward. So it keeps the contact down. It keeps cars kind of away from each other. But it's a great learning experience for people. The Porsche Club does a really good job of catering to new drivers. So anyway, still riding motorcycles. Just last year, I took a ride over to Portugal and Spain, rented a BMW GS. That's what I ride on the road here now. Rode about 800 or 900 miles through Portugal and northern Spain, and it was just fantastic. All these ancient, that cathedral was built in 1100. We stayed at a monastery that had been turned into a hotel that was built in like 600 AD. So just love the old stuff in the all over Europe, and really still enjoy riding. So basically from 17 to 75, I've had a motorcycle and been riding some kind of a motorcycle, and I still am, but love the car, love motorsports. And I'll give you a quick quote. This is Mark Twain. 20 years from now, you'll be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than the ones you did do. So have no regrets. And I like that quote. And I hope I've kind of done that. So anyway, that's it. Questions? Yeah, sure.
Question?
Yeah, sure. Anybody got any questions about any of this? Or
Are there
like,
any?
are you nuts? Or,
Did you ever dump that thing?
Yes. The dirt bikes, many times. Yeah, off-road bikes, that's part of the game. I've broken my right collarbone twice, my shoulder twice, and 4 ribs. But that's in 57 years of riding. So, I can kind of live with that. I mean, I don't have any regrets. Yeah. I'm not too crooked. Yeah. My suits, they have to shorten one arm a little more because of the collarbone, Yeah. I'm sorry, say again.
What kind of special licenses did he do in Spain and Portugal?
Really none. You just you fill out a couple of forms. You carry an insurance form with you that shows you're covered. The organizer actually has the insurance. They're his bikes, and he has the insurance. So he gives you a sheet that you put in your suit and carry it with you. So you're covered when you're over there. Oh, and on the track too, by the way, you can buy track insurance. Your automobile insurance does not cover you on a track. If you drive on a surface used for racing, it's null and void. But you can get actual track insurance, and you can get good coverage. And these high dollar cars, I mean, I've always had it. It's I wouldn't want to put that Porsche in the dumpster, and so we do. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
How does fear show up for you?
Say again.
How does fear show up?
Fear, fear is a healthy thing. I think you need a little bit. You've got to kind of know your limits. And I always try to stay inside the envelope. Now, when I was young and just riding dirt bikes, the way I found the limit was go past it. Just throw it in harder until you go down and go, okay, I got to back off a little next time. Well, that's long term. That's a problem. That's a problem technique. So with the bikes and even with the car, I tend to probe the limit, get it slipping a little bit, and then you kind of, okay, that's about all it wants, And with the motorcycle, you've got that extra dimension, that lean angle. So the bike is much more dynamic, than a car. It requires, and every hand and foot is involved. You got rear brake on the right foot, shifter on the left foot, front brake and throttle on the right hand, and clutch on the left hand. So you're totally involved, even riding a road bike. You don't have time to text or anything like that when you're riding a motorcycle. Yeah.
Any other questions? Tom is a contributor on WBT, where the Carolina Outdoors airs as well. So you can hear him weekly on there with a segment with Bo Thompson, where he shares his automotive expertise over the decades.
Well, I had 40 years in the business, so I didn't really talk much about the car business tonight, but that's kind of what we do on the Bo Thompson show. So,
Well, thank you for your story tonight. Fast Lane, Tom
Appreciate it.
Blocker.
Thanks.